Buenos dias, buenos dias. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are y'all?
I am doing
Wonderful. How are
great
you?
on this Monday. Oh, yes. Good to see you
Yeah.
guys.
How are you?
I am doing well. I didn't know if that how was you was for me or Dr. Danny, but I said I would go ahead and answer first.
Oh, okay. I'm glad
Doing
you want to
great.
be first today.
Yes, guys, I'm so super excited to be back today. It is, of course, April, brand new month, and
Brand new.
a lot of exciting things happening. So really, really excited to get into our conversation today. And how was the weekend? How was everybody's weekend?
I'm still in my bed in my mind.
Oh,
Me too.
Well, it was a little real this morning, but it was good.
that's
It was
good.
good. I actually did a little spring shopping, and then I
Okay.
also did some planning for this. I can never do anything like halfway. So instead of an Easter egg hunt, I've created this elaborate treasure, or what they call them, what I'm talking about, not the
Scavenger,
treasure hunt, scavenger hunt.
scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Okay, scavenger hunt for Easter.
Yes. So I did all my little shopping this week, and I said instead of giving them a basket full of stuff and an Easter egg hunt, they're gonna find the stuff that's going to go in the basket. That's what they're gonna do.
Oh, so they're making their own baskets.
Yes, without
Okay,
realizing they're making their own basket.
that's
Listen, it's
good. That's
almost
good.
like going to the restaurants where they want you to cook your food in front of you. We're cooking our own food at a Oh, okay. So,
I see. Now you ain't have to do all that. Now I'm gonna feel bad.
no, don't feel bad because it's
It's a
activity,
fun
it's
process
engagement.
for it's a
Yeah,
fun process, and
It's an
you
egg
can add in
shortage.
things that you want to add. So I think it's pretty dope. I think that's a good idea.
We
So
try to
everyone,
we trying to find the joy in the midst of an egg shortage. Okay, look,
listen.
and this is what I also got.
I love the mug. I love the mug. I don't
oh,
have my
come
mug this morning. I
on.
wish I did have some tea. That would be good.
I still have my
Listen,
girls.
I have to say this, guys. If in the shortage of eggs, they do have plastic eggs. You can replace those. You can replace those eggs. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Listen,
Jason,
Easter,
folks are fighting over the plastic eggs now. I'm telling y'all, there's a shortage of
for
all eggs.
Easter, the regular white egg is the golden egg
Oh, the regular white
because
egg is the
for
golden egg.
Why is that
$7 to $10
though?
for yeah, it's the golden egg.
Mm,
Well,
And
I'm gonna go past the egg and go to the source, and we may just need to come on up to somebody's farm
oh,
and say, "Hey,
Anna, I like
we
that.
need to make sure that we have an investment
yeah.
in who's producing these eggs." So
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
glad that JT's background is super cool. That wall that he's created. I'm glad everybody had an amazing, exciting weekend. The girls did some Easter egg um, scavenger hunts with their school, which was very exciting. And they just had a time. So I'm sure that the festivities will continue this weekend as well. Uh, but this was also Palm Sunday, so if you have your palms, I don't have mine near me,
Oh
but just
man, we
wave
could have
them in
got
the
some
air.
palms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just wave them in the air.
Was there a palm shortage too? Because I saw very few folks walking around with a palm in their hand.
I don't know. Church is changing, so I don't know how that's changing in spaces. I don't know. I might have to grow my own palm now and bring it with me when I come on Palm Sunday. But yeah,
I
that
got
was
some
the weekend.
lemongrass.
Money grass works, guys. Listen, if you're tuned into the morning show, welcome to April. It is officially spring, and we have a lot of things cooking up in the iWin kitchen. Hope that you had an amazing weekend. Now, I do know that universally, the first week of April, maybe the first 2 weeks of April, are set aside for spring break. So if you are on spring break and you'll go back and rewatch this, I hope that you had some amazing rest and that you have some funny moments a part of the iWin morning show. So shout out to everyone who is spring breaking. We just got back in town from celebrating spring break. Well, some of us did. Just got back in town from celebrating spring break with the family, which was very, very exciting. And if I don't have to travel for a couple of days, I'm super excited about that as well. March was a busy month of travel. So excited to be back in the studio and sitting down. with the
I,
I Win team.
I have a question about spring break. It's been a minute since we've all been in college, I'm assuming, right? If we all
Yes.
went. I was just so happy to take a detour past a college I will not name, but I realized it must be spring break because everybody's walking around naked, like in bikinis and on the campus.
Oh, I
And
think that's a norm.
I was gonna ask you, did I miss something? Because I don't remember doing that in my days in college, but I knew it was like Freaknik 4.0. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I think that it's different. Spring break for college, they normally go a little bit earlier
Yeah.
than the K through 12 schools,
Okay.
and that's exciting. But yeah, things have changed. This generation is definitely a little bit more liberated than past generations.
Yeah.
So for them, it's not a thing. For us, I think it is a thing. I also look at my younger cousins who are in high school, and they are very poetic justice. They are very themselves. They know who they are. They're coming into their own, and so I think that it's pretty cool. It is.
Yeah.
It is different. It is different. So for some of my family members who are coming in town, shout out to Maritza and Mecca, who will be in town this week, who are doing college tours, and it's a different world. It's definitely a different world on the college scene. I will say that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, it is different. It's exciting though, but definitely different. So if you are a college professor in higher ed, you have kids in higher education, you have kids who are getting ready to go into higher ed. Yes, it is a different world. I know. I like how I hope y'all caught that play on words.
We did.
Got it.
Different
We
world.
did.
So
Good job.
yes, guys,
How did
listen.
the cultural literacy book and town hall go?
Let me tell you guys, and I can say this because this is the I Win Morning Show. It made me value the students and just raw creatives even more because running the background is so important. My blood pressure was so high trying to do background and get the speakers ready, and I was like, baby, if we paying y'all good money, this shouldn't be happening. And shout out to MPU family, but yes, if you didn't see it on my face or catch it in my reads, I was very disgusted because I felt like, okay, this is a second go around. We're new kids on the block, but I do podcasting and I do town halls, so I was expecting it to be together. So the third go round, it will be together in regards to the background. The conversation was amazing, though. Our authors, the students, they filled in and they just made it work. The parents, everyone who gave their experience around cultural literacy and its relevancy was important. And so I always start with the disclaimer that, technical issues are going to happen. And they just so happened again. Technology is a guide within itself. And so you can't really control technology. However, there are some things you can control. So next time we're going to make sure those things are controlled. God bless you. All right. Hallelujah. But it was good. So shout out to everyone who participated in that and who will continue to make sure that their local schools are doing the right thing in regards to not banning books and erasing such important culture, which is needed. So yes, thank you for asking that, JT. All right, y'all, listen, we're going to have some newness. Now, if you are tuned in, we want your feedback. We want to know what questions should we be asking? What should we be getting into? We have some new segments that are going to be coming to the I Win Morning Show as well. So I'm super, super excited about that. However, we can't get into any conversations without starting off with our moment of affirmation that comes from Dr. Danny. So Dr. Danny, we're going to pass the mic over to you to start us off with our morning affirmation.
All right, I'm grabbing the mic. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so today's affirmation is inspired by this change of seasons and just the change in the world. So change is the word for today. If I change my mindset, I could change my perspective. If I change my perspective, I could change my approach. If I change my approach, I can influence change in the world. The change I desire can always be acquired. That is the affirmation.
Boom.
All right. That's it right there, Dr. Danny. Now, you know, I always say to do a rewind. So if you could just do that tagline, that very last tagline for the people, that would be super dope.
Yes. All right. I can influence change in the world. The change I desire can always be acquired.
That's right. The change I desire, guys. You have to desire
And
change
always.
and then go and enact that change, right? So, all right, we love that segment with Dr. Danny bringing us our morning affirmation. And it's not just for this morning, it's for the week, guys. You take this with you throughout the week. So I hope you have those notebooks out and taking some good notes. Shout out to Joy and my cousin Jamila all the way on the West Coast that are watching this
the
live
West
with
Coast.
us. JT.
Come on, West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
West Coast.
Strong.
JT. West Coast is coming through. Okay, JT, we're gonna pass the mic to you, my brother.
Awesome. So real quickly, I just talked about something. If you're saying West Coast, what time is it over there?
That's strong.
That's
3 hours
strong because
behind,
it's
right?
7:30 right now on Eastern Standard Time, so they're 3 hours behind us. Yeah, it's the early morning.
Okay.
They
Okay.
did
Well,
that.
we gave that praise. All right, y'all. So this is the moment where we're going to be inspired, right? And I've been waiting for a moment. Hey, Joy, you give me joy. Who is that?
Anita Baker.
Anita. I thought
Bring
we
you
was going
joy.
churchy for a minute,
I,
but
I,
that
I
was
thought it was you bring me joy too, but
It is. You
you
bring
can
me
Oh,
joy.
listen. You give, bring, receive.
it's
I'm
coming
sorry.
over here. It's gonna be here. It's gonna be here. That's all I know. That's all I know. So
Joy is what comes in the morning, though.
Right.
in the morning. So today we're going to be inspired. Since Jason always says this is like the churchy moment, I'm just going to shift it real quick.
Oh shit!
Just shift it just a little bit. And hopefully that the sound. Yeah, y'all hear the organ.
No.
Yeah. Oh! I hear it. I hear it. Lift your
You
hands
hear
up.
it? You don't hear it, Dr. Danny?
It's in a low key. It's in a low register.
Very low because I can't hear nothing. Oh, I
Uh-oh.
hear it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
All right, so listen, this is my inspiration for today. Basically, people of God, I want you all to go forward. I want you to go forward. I want you to be in a place in your life where you are not stuck in what has happened in the past. I understand that things were traumatic. I understand that things was hard. I understand that things was very difficult, either being caused by you, being caused by somebody, or being caused by a certain situation. But the thing about it is learn from the past, pull the knowledge and the experience that you had to learn from the past and move forward. There's a quote that I created that I've been saying for years is don't allow your past experiences to hinder your future expectations. So press forward, go forward. Don't allow what people have done to hinder what's in front of you. Even though they may have had a bad experience with something or someone, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen to you. What do you want out of life? What do you want out of today? That's what you want to go forward with. That's what you want to believe for. And I promise you, things will change for the better. So that's what I got for today.
Amen.
Things will change for the better. Now that organ was kind of sending us in. I know people were like, "Oh, they done got really super. They done got really super in this morning for real." But y'all know an organ is really good. Listen, it's nothing wrong with spirituality, guys. I want to shout out Mayor Khalid from South Fulton. He posed a very important question this morning, looking at the Country Music Awards. And he was like, the Country Music Awards, all of the songs were so motivating and so uplifting. And it was just different. And I was like, yeah, it is different because when you have ownership in the companies that can produce your music and can, approve your lyrics and are like, oh, this is what you want to talk about, we can go out and sell that. There's a huge difference. And so he asked a question around, how do we change the narrative for us? How do we begin to change our music to where R&B is really something that's of soul and is giving back to the soul, is giving back to the people? How do we recreate and reclaim the genres that are prevalent to our communities that are not uplifting joy, love, and peace? And so I thought that was simply amazing. JT, your words that you gave to us and how we have to start looking at what we do collectively different. And so thank you for that. I think it also connects to our big question this morning, which may be a little. Now Dr. Danny, she's coming back. She's coming back, y'all.
She stepped away.
She stepped away for a
people,
minute. Our big question this morning is centered around a lot of what Mayor Khalid is asking around culture. And what do we do in Black culture that we can reclaim some of the music genres that, quite frankly, what we listen to, that impacts our spirit, it impacts how we show up, it impacts our self-care, but it also impacts who we are. There's a song that I know my great-grandparents used to love now that they're ancestors. I think about the words of the song, and it says that they will know that we're Christians by our love. But it's very interesting because how do people really know that we are Christians if love doesn't precede us? They know we're Christians by what we say and how we are judgmental to others and how we may cast or shun other people away. But the song lyrics ask a very powerful question. How will they know that we are Christians without love? And so that's a big part of what we're focusing on this morning. Dr. Danny, we did not drop the big question just yet. We knew that you were taking a praise break, but you're back now. So yes, and listen, guys, we're actually talking about praise this morning, which is spiritual, but a lot of people don't realize how praise actually shows up in our everyday lives. And so I want to challenge the iWin team and also those who are listening with us and definitely can connect others to this conversation. But I'm very curious about how does praise show up in your life? That's our big question for today. How does praise show up in your life? And so, again, just wanted to reiterate this. Praise shows up in different ways. It's a spiritual practice, but it's also shows up in different forms, such as admiration. How do we admire people? How do we recognize people? How do we celebrate people? What do we celebrate? What are things that people would associate to us? How does our spirituality show up in our daily lives in the form of praise? And so I think that also people look at praise as, oh, you may have had a Baptist fit or you had a good shout, right, in church. But what actually is praise? Which is a good question because I don't think that a lot of people really understand that. I really want to explore praise today. As it is just recently past Palm Sunday. People are in the Lent season, and we're preparing for the journey to Easter. So I think that it's a very.
I got some palms.
You have some palms, okay?
You gonna share them with us?
So yeah, guys, we're talking about praise. If you want to go ahead and drop some things in the chat about how does this show up. If you are a parent, how do you praise your children? If you are a teacher, how do you celebrate? And I see it. And
Nice.
Yeah, you better go ahead and have this.
You about to be off the chain this Holy Week.
Oh, I'm on child.
I'm done.
I'm excited about this conversation this morning. And even though JT has the palm about to take us into a praise break, but in all seriousness, I'm really pondering on Mayor Khalid's question, not just how do we reshape how we show up in music, but how do we show up in society? Do people view us as spiritual beings through our praise? How does that show up in our everyday lives? So I am curious about how is praise showing up in your everyday lives? If you're a praiser, what does that look like when you're at work, when you are in the community, when you're out with your family? What does that look like?
Now, when you're asking that, are you asking it from the perspective of being a Christian, being in church, and for most part, it's the Pentecostal charismatic individuals that believe that our outer expressions, whether it's through music, dance, we're going in. So are you asking for the people who go in the church, what do they do if they feel like they need to showcase some type of praise outside of the church? Or are you just saying praise, adoration, congratulations, that type of praise? Which kind of
I would
context.
say both, but I also want to start with this:
Okay.
that praise is a verb. That means it's an action. So how are we showing praise? Now here's Webster's example. Praise is to express warm approval or admiration of. So, for example, we can't praise Chris enough. He did a brilliant job. So we see this a lot of times. We will want to see this on jobs where people are praised for the things that they do. Children are praised in schools. We're praised, when we're in the community and celebrated. But it's also, again, an expression of approval and admiration for someone or something. And so there is a spiritual praise, but there's also praise that just shows up in an everyday form. And so I'm very curious about, as Christians, as people who are spiritual and godly, how does the act of praise show up in our everyday lives?
So I would say with me, it shows up from someone giving me some type of, as Dr. Danny does, affirmation, seeing what I actually do and saying, this is great. Congratulations. This was wonderful. I love your work. Here it is. As for me, one of the things that I had to work on as being a leader is to praise people more than to correct them. And I think, Dr. Danny, you brought it up. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about how we pretty much give them a sandwich where we praise at the beginning, we correct them, and then we praise them at the end. And that's kind of my method of giving them more praise than correction, because I do believe highlighting them and what they have going on is much better. So I say for me, that's how it shows up, especially with me having worked for my clients. And I say it this way, I do need the praise, not to build up my self-esteem. I need the praise to know that I'm doing the right part. I'm on the right track. This is a good job. If my clients never say I love the work, I'm going to question if I'm really doing good, because I need some type of approval, ecstaticness from them to let us know that we're doing the right work. So that's kind of how it shows up. And I think for a lot of people, I'll say this, I don't think I know how to receive praise as well as I know how to give it. I can give it all day, but when people give me praise, it is more of that, oh, thank you, and there's something I'm working on, how to receive praise from people, because I don't do well with that. Like, why do I have to say, oh, no, you're good? Why can't I say, thank you, or, oh, just sit there and receive it? Why does it have to be like a pushback from it? And I think that's that bottom lining of, oh, you don't ever want to be so pompous. But when you think about it, if you did a good job and they say you did a good job, then you received a good job. And you keep going on about your day. I don't have to minimize it to make me think that I'm trying to be more than I am. So,
okay. Yeah. I like that. Thank you for sharing your perspective with praise.
Come on. That's a little churchy.
Perspective with praise could be a little churchy.
I'm all confused this morning. I don't understand what I'm supposed to be saying, but I'm gonna try this.
Okay.
From what I understand, I think that there is a misconception of what we praise, what we give honor and appreciation for, what we give attention to. And so I'm looking at it really different from probably what you all are thinking. But when I think of praise in society, we culturally praise things that go against the grain of what is traditionally right. It's like we praise those who are like challenging systems, not necessarily in a good way, or who are the disruptors. We praise those. Like, I feel like when you give attention to spaces or people, you're praising them in a way, like you're giving them extra attention. And I think that we have this really warped way of honoring those that are disruptors in a bad way versus honoring those who are people that are well-intended and doing good work. And so I think that, unfortunately, those who really deserve praise and deserve acknowledgement don't get it. So we don't see enough of it. I don't see it. If it weren't for like we talked about this a while back with paying attention to like awards and things like that or the people who are wearing the outfits that are like, causing a tension, but it's negative. It's all negative, right? And so it's like I feel like we are in a culture right now that has changed the way we define what praise is, and we praise those things in which go against the grain. And that means that those people who are, and I'll say for Christians, who are trying to uphold the holiness, of, let's say, Christianity. I'm trying to say this carefully. It's like those people don't get appreciated, nor do they get acknowledged, in society, because it doesn't follow what's popular in the world. So praise is just different. Now, if you're talking about Christianity praise, well, I mean, I think it's very traditional, where it shows up in the house of God with the right song, the right time and service. But what do those people do? I'm one of them too. What do those people do outside of church? Like I'm traditionally not doing the same praise dance that I would be doing in the four walls. Just not. But I'm still praising God.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever like dance, ran, like took some of those actions outside? Were you for real, or were you like?
Oh no, that had to be for real, because you wouldn't catch me out there doing that. No.
That's interesting though.
That laid out on
that's so interesting to hear.
The way she said it, just laying out on the floor.
That was the Holy Ghost.
So you don't play around out here. Well, I guess that's the word, play around. You don't take what is happening in the church and maybe do that out in public, even in having, like, I guess, fun. You don't do that.
I am that person that listens to what every word Shirley Caesar said in her song. When she said she used to be playing church, and then all of a sudden she caught the Holy Ghost for real out in the playground. I believe that. I don't think you can. There's something about it you can't play with. I know people play, and I think, but who are we to say whether they're playing or not either? Some folks just might get it, in the midst of their playing. So, if we're talking about,
No, I love this. So we're talking about praise, how it shows up in our everyday lives. What does it look like? I love the analogy of how do you praise in church and how do you praise outside of church? And so I want to go to Joy's comment where she says that honoring self and others, being an encourager, being also an exhorter, helping without having to be asked when you see there's a need. This is also a way that praise can continue. And I think that it's such an important question when I think about spiritually, how do Black people show up in our society? If I wasn't a Christian, how would I know that someone who is Black in my community is Christian? How do I measure that? And so I go back to the action of praise and how does that show up? I also am thinking about the fruits of the Spirit. How does kindness show up? That is a form of praise. How we are being kind to others, and it's something that is measurable, because are we kind to people who are like-minded? Are we kind to people who look like us? Are we kind to people in general? And so I want to just kind of push us there for a moment. How do the fruits of the Spirit show up when we're outside of the walls of the church?
Well, I mean, I think you stated in the action of it, being patient, being loving, being kind, having another view of how we react to it. I think that's how it would show, especially at your job. If a person's going in and they're, putting out certain things, how you respond to it, I think, is how you can kind of recognize a person that is holding on to some type of Christian values, because it is a good thing. And maybe I'm going to shift it a little bit when you said that, how do we recognize if a person's a Christian other than the way that they would praise on the outside, right? I'm in a space in the life now where, am I supposed to be recognizable that I'm a Christian by any outer effects? Like, should I have on a shirt? Should I speak a specific language? Should I, be holier than thou in that sense? Or should I, as you're stating, act accordingly by my representation? Because when I think about scripture, and you see the people, Jesus never put on the garments that the higher priest had on. If you didn't know him from what everybody said, you would have never known that he was the Son of God. He was just going through. You knew him by his actions, by him healing somebody, by him saying, yo, don't throw stones at them unless you're going to throw stones at yourself. So I look at, when it comes to the church, how much should I be really trying to put myself on Front Street without some type of actions? And I think if we're going to do the fruits of the Spirit, I think those are actions that should be shown just in how things are happening. But I don't think we should be making anything happen. And sometimes I don't think we should be trying to always set ourselves apart as this. I think we should be able to blend in to be effective, because when you think about Jesus, he blended in. The only way that you knew is from the words of the people and the actions that he did, who he was. And I think in how we do it, and taking on what Dr. Danny said and what you're presenting, doing some of these shouting and dancing and praising stuff outside the church, yes, that shows it, but does it really glorify and give people that notation that I am a Christian? Or am I just doing what I saw? I have no connections to God anyway. Because just because a person's dancing and shouting and running and playing, speaking in tongues doesn't mean they're a Christian. It just means they just are doing, what they saw somebody else do. And I think that's something that needs to really be discussed.
I love it. This is a very thoughtful question. You have to be really mindful of, okay, yeah, how does praise show up in my everyday life? Because it's a major thing. Now, I want to say this, and I want to ask Dr. Danny and also JT, the brand master, and of course, those who are watching live, thoughts on this. Praise facilitates access to God. And so thinking about praise from that sense, praise facilitates access to God. I was very intentional, especially in the classroom. How was I facilitating access to God from students who never had a relationship with God, from students who worship God differently? How do I center myself in an atmosphere where there are differences in how God shows up in people's lives, and how am I able to activate everything that has breath to be able to connect to God, to feel God, to be inspired, to be empowered, to feel safe, to feel belonged. So I'm looking at how praise facilitates actual access to God. And what does that look like?
When you ask that, are you asking in the space of when I am outside of, again, take the school, I'm in school, I'm teaching. How can I praise him? By giving him the glory without kind of acting. I kind of want to make sure I'm
no, this is good. And I'm very strategic. It's not a right or wrong answer in this, but I'm asking this because this is a question that my young people and I have discussed. And it's interesting how the church is not having enough conversations around this, because academics has to connect to spirituality in some sense. And so we know what Webster has told us what praise is. We know what the church tells us and shows us what praise is. A lot of that praise happens within the church. It's happening in a specific atmosphere. However, God is not confined to the walls of the church. So how do we take praise and actually apply it to our everyday lives to where it's showing up and people can actually say, oh, love is a form of praise. Patience is a form of praise. Kindness is a form of praise. How are these things actually showing up in our daily lives? And do we actually even recognize these things as a form of praise from an academic sense to a spiritual lens?
Dr. Danny, because
I'm getting thrown off with the word praise. Maybe that's part of my issue. I think it's, if you're talking about showing the love of God to other people, which is praise in some way, but I think you can't convert people without showing compassion. And if you're going out there to be a disciple of God, of Christ, then the first thing is work on your own relationship with God. Let your light shine, as it says, and be an example. how you treat people is a way of showing people that you are about God's business. You don't have to wear a shirt that says I believe in God. You don't have to wear a shirt that says I'm saved. You just govern yourself accordingly. And the one thing that to understand who God is, who is this entity that we have a relationship with. And you can only understand that when you study him and read his word. Now, are all of us in a position to do that? Yes, we are all in a position. Will all of us do it? No, we all will not. And so I think the more closer that you are in depending on God, you have a stronger relationship. And no matter what area that you work in, whether it's in the school system, whether it's in, whatever community you're in, it's let your actions speak louder than the words. Now, do you have to tell people, well, this is how Jesus would treat you, so this is why I'm treating you this way? No, you're just showing them the acts of kindness that this is how you should. This is how we all should treat each other.
Well, since Jesus loving you, I'm gonna love you.
I'm gonna love you too. Right.
Love me. Come
right. On. Exactly. So I think that we have to focus more on being a core good person. And what does that good person mean? Well, we all have definitions of what good means. Let's be clear. But if you're going to focus it in on religion, then go back to the book, go back to the source, and that'll help. I think that is the one thing that many religions do very well. Christianity, we have different versions of Christianity, but we all have one book, but we all have then all different interpretations of the book.
Correct.
Understand what are the fundamentals, like what are the basics, the fruits of the spirit. Okay, even those are translated differently in some places, but I'm just saying you have to understand what the core is. What are those core values, and what do they mean to you? And what do they mean between you and God before you go out there and try to convert everybody else?
And I really can say that for you to really exercise and really understand if you're allowing the fruit of the spirit, and the key thing is you want to have the spirit in you first to have the fruit. And from what my Bible reads, that when you accept the Lord to your life, then that comes along as a package that empowers you to be able to live out the fruit. But when you think about the fruit of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, from those moments, the best way that I know that I can tell my level of it is getting in traffic. Because when I'm in traffic, I'm really able to see where's my fruit of the spirit meter at. Because if I'm cussing them out, joy is nowhere present. Patience is nowhere present. Gentleness is nowhere present. If I'm always trying to rush to get somewhere, that it's just right there into that moment where that's not happening. But like you said, Dr. Danny, the action. And I don't think a lot of Christianity, I don't see a lot of people acting from the fruit of the spirit. I just don't. When I think about I was working in the school system, and there will be certain news that would hit us that they're going to do. How we sometimes go into this deep, oh my God, I can't believe it, and we begin to stress. That's not the fruit of the spirit. That's not. Granted, it is human, but if you really have it, something should have already said, oh, well, if that's what the case is going to be, this is how I'm going to look at it. I don't think we show enough of the fruit because the fruit doesn't really put us on display as much as I think a lot of people want to be on display. They want to know that, oh, you are acting this way. Oh, you are a godly. You don't have to know that for me to be okay. Just look at my life. And I feel like for that to happen, there needs to be a group of multiplied actions that happen that prove that I really am that. And I don't think a lot of Christians today are allowing time to play. It's like, once I get saved, oh, I'm saved, y'all. I'm not going there. I'm not going over your house anymore because you got that going on. I'm going to stay at my house. And why do you got to say that? What, you know what I'm saying? Why do we have to put so much to it? Why can't we just be? I feel like there's just, and I think this is with social media, because we see everything, we tell everything, we have to just put everything out there. I don't think that was the base of why God told us to. If you have it on you, when you come around, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to sense it. I'm going to see it. I'm going to know that it's happening. You ain't got to say one word. I could tell when I first met Dr. Danny what was inside her because of what came out. She didn't have to tell me that. But when you look at the church and you look at people, we're putting everything out there. Even if we're giving people and sowing into people's lives or giving to the homeless. Hey, y'all, I just gave something to him. I love doing. Why do I have to say and share? That's why I think praise, when it comes to that state, it's a little weird in the presentation because it's so much fueled with our own formulas of what we feel should be happening. And I think that's what needs to change.
So praise is an action. It's just that actions speak louder than words. It's how do you show God, when we're talking about religion, that you love him? Is by your actions. It's by the posture of praise, or it's by how you live your life. As an extension of his grace and mercy is through praise. Now, with other people outside of church, I believe we have to remember, and I can't remember if it was Maya Angelou who said it, so forgive me, but it's people remembering not always what you say, but how you made them feel. And I think that is what the outcome of praise is. It's, you know what, after I've praised God, will he know that I love him? Will he see the sincerity of my heart because of what I just did? Because he can feel that, whether I tell him I love him or I show him I love him. But it's the same thing with people. When you are working with people, when you're working with children, they may not remember everything you have told them, how you have guided them, but they will remember that you made them feel loved. You'll remember that they will remember that you made them feel seen. You'll remember, or they will remember that you made them feel that somebody cares for them. And that's the same thing in all walks of life, is how you make somebody feel. That is a form of praise. And that is something that cannot be, it's not fake. It has to be authentic.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it was Maya Angelou. At the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or did. They'll remember how you made them feel.
That's right. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. 3 areas of praise. Personal praise, we kind of touched on that. It's the Thanksgiving that you experience that's personal between you and God, or the higher source of being. That is personal. No one can tell you or dictate how that feels or shows up for you, because it's personal praise. Effort-based praise is what we see a lot of times when collectively we are gathered together, maybe for ceremonies or awards or for worship services at church. Behavior-specific praise is what shows up every day. Whether we're in church, whether we're with our loved ones, more so how society sees us showing up in and as our authentic selves. So these are 3 areas of praise. A lot of times as you move up, the behavior specific praise is something that is kind of just like overlooked, because it's, I've gone out of personal and I've gone out of my immediate community to a larger society, but it is important because again, we want to be able to reach the masses. I love what Dr. Danny added in regards to the Dr. Maya Angelou quote and how that shows up and how relevant and important that is. Because at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said. They will remember what you did, how you showed up. They'll remember you as a kind person or a loving person. How do these characteristics of praise show up? Perseverance is so important, because when I think about this, I think a lot of our ancestors and how they had to persevere through different things. And a lot of times people will say, we're not our ancestors. We wouldn't dare show up in that way. But perseverance is a gift. That's a strength. It's an act of praise. And so it was something about their perseverance that allowed them to be attacked by dogs and to be, attacked by police officers with water hoses and other things that they used to attack them. But compassion is also a point of praise. Forgiveness, which I see a lot of people struggle with. Forgiveness is a characteristic of praise. Honesty and integrity, being able to show up in love and say, hey, sister, I know what you're trying to do, but it could be a little conflicting to people. So how can you show up in honesty, but also integrity with people without being judgmental? One of the things that I loved in this definition of praise and what the characteristics are is being hardworking. A lot of times, Dr. Danny mentioned in the beginning how we celebrate people. When I think about being on jobs and the people who were the most hardworking, who were compassionate and, giving to others, they were oftentimes shunned. They were looked over. They weren't appreciated. When I think about students who are very hardworking, they may not be the straight A student, or they may not come from the right family, and all of those things, but they were very hardworking, good people. And so kindness, hardworking, being able to forgive, showing compassion, these are things that are overlooked a lot in our society, but they're characteristics of praise. It's very influential to how we show up and how praise shows up in our lives. So really challenging us to look at taking our personal praise and making it a behavior specific praise, where it actually shows up in our daily lives. I think that's the disconnection with a lot of people and how we show up in society, being able to take that personal praise and then it show up as a behavior specific. People can identify that, you know what, Dr. Danny is honest. She's going to tell me up front what it is. And people love that. Business integrity, honest across the board. JT is a compassionate person. He hears my heart. That's somebody that I want to go and get advice from. Those are characteristics of praise where your connection with God is showing up in a real aspect for people who can identify it. Those are my notes from the conversation.
Awesome. I love it. This was good.
Yes. I mean, it's Lent season, and I was out of town this week in New York, and I had a conversation with a couple of different people, Black, brown, mixed race, about this question before I even presented it to you guys. And it's very interesting how we have a notion of what praise is and then how it shows up and how that actually culturally shows up for us as a people. So I really think that it's something that people can take with them this week to really challenge not just how praise shows up in us, but are we in atmospheres where praise is authentic and it's actually showing up in a collective, holistic way in places that we worship, we spend our time, we invest our money, and also our talent. Good question. All right, guys, we are at the end. It is already 6 minutes after 8 o'clock. What are we looking forward to this week? What new books are we reading for the month? How are we exuding praise this week?
Well, I wanted to share that, this is a holy week. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that it's not just about Easter, but it's the days leading up to Easter. And for those who are Christian, who are really all about what this day represents, it's about resurrection, not about the bunny. So I just wanted to give you all just a quick rundown of what this week includes. Palm Sunday is when Jesus entered into Jerusalem. Holy Monday, Jesus freed the sacrificial animals and cleaned the temple. On Holy Tuesday, Jesus taught at the temple. Wednesday, a disciple named Judas, we know who that was, betrayed Jesus for some money. Thursday, there was the Last Supper with the disciples, and Jesus washed their feet. Friday, which is what we like to call fish, crucified on the cross. Holy Saturday, Jesus rested in the tomb because he got up. And then Resurrection Sunday is when he got up. So just wanted to put this out there. That's how we're going to celebrate this week.
Listen, that Holy Saturday, that means that you go ahead and get the hair and get your haircuts, get your outfits out, because by 5 o'clock you need to be resting, because Jesus had to, be rested when he woke up with all white on and shining bright like a diamond on Sunday. So you got to get your rest on Saturday for Holy Saturday. But in all seriousness, this is very important because it is something that's celebrated across the world and it shows up differently. And which was one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, because again, people are going to go to work. And how does it show up when you go to work? when you're in a business meeting and in a community, how does this show up? Our love for Christ, our love for God, however that love shows up, does not cut off. There's not a button that says, oh, I'm going into this work meeting. If I get a message that my aunt is delivered from breast cancer, let me keep my hands down and let me not say nothing. Because, babe, let me tell you, if I get a message, you will know. You're just going to know, because that's how I am. But it shows up differently for us all. And so this conversation is just, again, to remind us of some foundational things. We talked about the fruit of the Spirit. It really is a self-check. How does my character show up when I am in different places? Am I exuding honesty and integrity and compassion for others? Will people know that we are Christians by our love? Not we're saying I love you, but the actions that we truly display. So as we all are on this journey throughout this week, whether Christ is your center or not, we all are still going through this time. That doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's a very important time, very spiritual week for many people. And so do a self-check. How is your praise showing up in your everyday life? And are you praising God in your own personal closet, or does your love and praise for God show up on a daily basis when you're interacting with people, with animals? Because let me also remind you guys what Dr. Danny said about today. It's only Monday. And really, Jesus was with the animals. Now, are the butterflies centered around you? Do the animals run away when they see you? You got to have a love for animals too, and nature. And that's connected to this, guy. I know this sounds, it's a little sarcasm maybe coming off. However, it is important. Now, I know that the deer are not going to come up to you and say, hey, how is your Holy Week going? However, you know what I mean? There is an energy that is around animals, and you know that. You got to check that. God was present with everything. It says everything. I'm not going to preach and harp on that, but if you really want to do a true power test, if you can't command everything that is around you to praise God, then baby, you don't have no power. And I don't know how in any other way to say it, because that's what the word commands us, that everything, when we show up as agents of God, as agents of Christ, everything should be able to shift because of what we're bringing, which is the power of God, which is the compassion of Christ. So if everything isn't compelled to change, to shape up in the form of what God has called it to be, then baby, that power that you speak in ain't really there. And I just want to put that out there, because again, that's what the word says. Everything, agents of Christ. If we are agents of Christ, everything should be able to move in our command, because we're coming as agents of Christ, as agents of God. So I wanted to end my final words on that. Dr. Danny JT, I'm passing it to you.
I just say, don't forget to get your fish sandwich at Chick-fil-A. Get that fish sandwich at Chick-fil-A on Friday now.
Really?
Every
Go
year
to
they
the
do
church.
fish
The
sandwiches.
churches are selling fish sandwiches, y'all. Go to Chick-fil-A. But if you pass by a church that is selling some fish sandwiches on Friday, go
Every
ahead
year.
and drop them $1.
Yeah. And they sell out every year.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
a
gonna be in the
farmer.
line.
Sign me up.
Okay.
Sign me
Sign
up.
me up for the Chick-fil-A drive-through line. Yeah. Okay. No, don't
Give us
put me
your
on front. I'm good.
That was JT's final words to sign him up for the Lord have mercy. Sign him up for the Chick-fil-A drive-through line. Guys, listen, tonight, 7:15, I'll have Barney Jackson on, a good friend of mine, and Arthur. You guys know I'm always about uplifting the Arthur. Breakfast with Barney. We're actually going to be talking up, I have to get this title right, Palms, Psalms, and Praise. This will be on Speak Black Man tonight. And, you know, I like to have a little controversy. So, yes, we are going to be addressing the stigma around praise and Black men in and out of the church. So, talk about spicy. We'll definitely be talking that up. But again, if you go back and rewatch this episode of the I Win Morning Show, this was a good teachable lesson, because all three of us have different perspectives and walks with our praise, which this is how it should be. This is the power of Sunday school. I also am encouraging churches that may have moved away from Sunday school. This is why Sunday school is so important, because what Dr. Danny JT and I did this morning talking about praise, how it shows up in our own personal lives, but also what we collectively want to see the body of Christ do is important.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that
Mm-hmm.
others who are following Christ are really taking this back to their sheep so that we can have more conversations around this, and so that people can know that praise does not end when you leave out of the four walls of your church. Because, you know, if you really love God and you in that worship song, it can hit you in the bathroom while you driving. You get ready to walk into a meeting and you got to go to the restroom and shake it off. The love for God doesn't turn off. That's all we're saying, guys. So this is the I Win Morning Show. I think JT is in the midst of a praise break of his own, which is all good. We love you guys, and we will see you on next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. The I Win Morning Show team. We love you guys. Wakanda forever.